pt1, apologies.
No.
Okay, thank you very much. No apologies then. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Members are asked to declare if required any disclosable pecuniary interest they may have in respect to items on the agenda.
Peter, can you pass me the book to find
That is a
it?
no.
Oh, I haven't signed it yet.
We'll take that as a no then.
No.
Any other interest they may have in respect of items on the agenda?
No.
No? Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah, sorry, Chairman. With all the excitement, I'll be declaring on the allotment lease.
Anybody else need to sign
The
the
lease
book?
one.
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
Could you just pass that down? Please, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So you are declaring an interest on...
I can hear somebody talking. Sorry.
The allotment lease, Chairman.
The allotment.
Don't you say you
Okay, thank you. You have not noted that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I haven't.
now if you like.
You finished? I'd like to carry on with the meeting.
Well, there seems to be some general...
Thank you. Agenda item 3, to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on Wednesday the 14th of February. There's two parts to this then. So the first one, the meeting on the 14th of February. Any comments, observations? No? Okay, that's no. Peter's proposing accepting them by the seconder. Thank you very much.
So Peter. Seconded. David.
All those in favour?
What if it's only part?
Yeah, I was only part.
I think if you... Good point, Joyce. I think that if you're not for the full meeting, you need to abstain.
Yes, I have to abstain.
Okay, so those in favour? Against? Abstain.
Oh, sorry.
4.
Okay, thank you. To confirm the minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the Thursday the 22nd of February. Any comments? No? Another proposal? Okay. Thank you very much, David. Another seconder for that, please?
I'll second.
Sally Ann, thank you. All those in favour?
Yeah.
Just put your hand up for a moment, please.
Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Against? Abstentions?
1, 2, 3.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Chairman and Members' reports. Report from the Chairman. Do you have any other reports? Peter, you have a report?
Are you going to hand also Nick?
I'll find that out.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I attended the St George's Barracks working group at the officers' mess. Joyce was there as well. So that's moving forward, and I'll come back to that in a minute. I attended a couple of events with the Mayor, which is listed. Also, in the last few days, I've been to the Parish Council working group. The next agenda is hopefully, again, St George's Barracks, an update from the leader. Historic environment, presentation from Debbie Creason, Chair of Rutland Local History Society. It's important. I mean, we have a castle, listed buildings, various other areas, museum and so forth. The other agenda item, again, is very topical and important to us. General data protection. We need to be on the ball with this. It's looming, and there'll be a presentation, and it's April the 6th, from the monitoring officer, or, if not, the head of corporate governance. So we'll have a chance to have an update on that. As I say,
What day of the week? Sorry, Peter.
it's always a Monday, I think.
Friday.
16th of April.
16.
You said
Oh,
16th.
16th
Oh,
of April.
6th.
Yes. So, and it'll be at the council chamber as always.
Monday, yeah.
That's parish working.
So there's 3 good topics there. Also on potentially is the local transport plan. Now that sounds very dry, but it's important because it's the future of bus services, roads, with a whole list. I've got a whole graph at the end here. That will probably be a written report, but again, it's something we need to watch, and there'll be consultation over the next few months. I think that covers everything, Jim.
Thank you very much. Nick, will you have a report?
Members. So I attended the first meeting of the RCC Open Town Task and Finish Group on our behalf. We did try communicating some to get garner opinions from members outside of the normal schedule of meetings. So for that I'd like to apologise on behalf of the Task and Finish Group. We had a very tight deadline to get some feedback on the terms of reference that we were trying to set. I've given everyone a copy via via the clerk, an update of the agreed terms of reference that's going towards the scrutiny panel. Some significant pieces to inform you of was we've decided to expand or recommended expanding the group to include a couple more of the diverse groups that should be represented, such as youth, some more of the marketing of Rutland as a whole, not just focused on Oakham because of feedback. And the other thing that we managed to secure is, because we only have 6 months to wrap this whole process up, there's a real risk that at least one meeting I won't be able to attend on your behalf. So we have secured the ability to send a substitute, which I'd like us somehow before next meeting to consider how that process could operate, if at all possible, because it would be a real missed opportunity if we don't send a representative to every meeting. So we'd obviously need to work on how we communicate and share information. I think it's something we should definitely consider appointing a substitute, unless the chair can stand in. I don't know what the procedure is, but it's pretty self-explanatory. You can take time to read the agreed terms of reference.
Thank you very much for that, Nick. Do you have any other reports?
Can I just
You don't need to stand up if you don't want to.
I attended the Task and Finish, the Commonwealth Service at Leicester Cathedral stakeholders meeting on Monday. As I didn't represent you, I don't need to tell you all about that. However, I did represent Oakham Town Council last night at the open room, and really, apologies, I haven't had time to write a report. You'll have to come in next one. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Agenda item 5, council questions to cover. Question, thank you. 6 is the clerk's report,
That's
which you've already received. Okay. Deputations by the public, don't have any. So agenda item 8, working group, steering groups, strategy. Those you have received, maybe the plan steering group, promotions and publishing working group.
Sorry, I can't hear people.
So we've got there are 3 working groups trustee reports that have gone out with the agenda, neighbourhood plan, promotion of obviously, and the Christmas working group. Taking one at a time. Do you have any questions or comments on the neighbourhood plan?
Personally, I've really on the neighbourhood plan one, Chairman. I don't have any other reports at all.
Did you? No.
It's getting frustrating.
Sorry?
I said it's getting very frustrating, the lack of papers I get before meetings.
I didn't receive one.
No,
No, you haven't done one.
Well, that's because we didn't have one. So,
But anyway,
so we haven't had a promotion for this week. We'll remember the Christmas working group one, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just a neighbourhood plan
Yeah.
steering. Any comments on the neighbourhood plan steering?
I have a comment. I haven't been able to bring it to council, but I hope there will be a chance. I dug out the documents which were produced by the LRAC relating to the neighbourhood plan training that I took in 2006 at Rutland County Council. This report that we're given doesn't tell us what's going on. Stage 2 of the neighbourhood plan very clearly states, which was given by the LRAC, and it's important the council hears this, that the steering group should be working in consultation with Rutland County Council to seek the finances. They didn't do stage 2. That's why the taxpayers are paying for it, and they shouldn't be the local taxpayers paying for it. And also, it says in there that anybody connected to Oakham, whether they work, live, own a property, whatever. So I object strongly to every time I've asked to do something with the neighbourhood plan, I am refused. I also object to the fact that we only have one representative on it. And not once have we asked for our input as a town council. Michael Bailey is our representative.
I will answer. I don't need to answer those.
We've only had one
We've had you
representative
3
for
minutes.
months.
Please keep
Yes,
quiet.
thank you, Chairman.
I've got just somebody to answer that, if I may. First of all, as far as fund is concerned, the steering group has been in consultation with Rutland County Council, and it is in writing that Rutland County Council do not provide any funding towards the cost of developing the neighbourhood plan. What they do provide is a service level agreement which this council entered into, and that has been minuted, where they do provide services, but they do not provide any funding. Secondly, if Councillor Brooks feels he has a contribution to make to the steering group or to a working group thereof, then I suggest he puts that in writing to the chairman of Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group. Thirdly, the way the reports are produced, these are the reports, they are produced in a way which currently, until May, Council have resolved that reports will be produced by working groups. David, I think you want to comment.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, well, I won't comment on the fact that this is the only working group that's still producing the old style. I did old style reports, and so they're bearing that in mind. Could somebody tell me then, because it doesn't tell me on the report, that we held interviews, who was elected? We also had a stakeholders meeting. What was the outcome of that? Because it doesn't tell me what happened, but I've got no details of who was elected to sit on the working group, and is it our working group? Surely we should be told that. And we have no feedback from what took place at the stakeholders meeting.
Well, because I haven't got that information myself yet, because I wasn't at the last meeting. So that will be reported in
You
due
miss a
course.
lot, Chairman, because there is
Councillor Brooks, I've not invited you to speak. Kindly keep quiet.
And also,
Do I have anything else
councillor
at all?
here who still thinks
Nick.
that we have a female chairman of that organisation. That's how informed we are.
Just a quick clarification. I'm sure it's a typo, but I just wanted to make sure. We talk about meeting with open plan, and then we say a letter of intent went to Open Reach. I'm having the telecom company, so. And then Open Reach and then Open Reach. So is it just a typo?
That's fine. That's a
fine.
that's a
Mistakes happen.
No, that's a typo. Joyce.
This has just come up time and time again. There's another typo. Can you tell me who A. Jurors is on the first page, please?
That would have been Alf Jewis.
Can it be rectified? Because
Yes,
it comes
it
up
can be.
time and time again. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on the Labour Plan Steering Group?
Yeah, when are we going to have our second representative appointed?
Oh,
That's up to council. When council wants to appoint somebody else on
Well,
it.
bring it to council, please. People are asking for things to be brought to council, and we get nonsense that's on the agenda tonight, like don't send inappropriate emails, which you can't enforce because people send them.
Can we move on with the meeting?
I'm trying to say is
Right.
that things are not.
Agenda item 9 is statement of accounts.
oh, right. Statement of cash.
Do you wish to raise any issue of making any comments on the statement of accounts?
Where does that end? Does the next one begin? Or is it all of these cases? Sorry. I'm only asking.
I'm not raising anything because I've been accused of stalking.
Please keep quiet, Councillor Brooks.
What page are we talking about now?
We are on
Appendix E.
Appendix
Just
E.
E, just E.
Appendix
E.
E.
Yeah,
But
but
where does it end?
bring it to the E1.
So that one was,
Can we, perhaps the clerk can answer that.
E. Page 1. It's the first one. Appendix E. You're looking at, Joyce.
Yeah,
We need to approve that one first. We need to approve that one first, please.
where does it end?
Well, we need to do-
Well, it ends just before
Just that
Appendix
one
9E2.
No, it goes on to E1.
Joyce, all the way up to that page there. The statement where it's resting.
Because
On the budget.
I've got something to say on that page.
Right, okay. There, that's where it ends, that page there.
Right, so that includes what I want to say. Thank you.
Do you wish to make a comment on the...
Sure. Cash book, page 1. Total payments for cleaning the windows, £44. Is that for a year or 2 years? Or is that just for a week or a month?
It's for a quarter. It was,
£44 for 2 windows is an awful lot of money.
well, it was minuted quite a few years ago. I can dig out the minute for you and email it to you tomorrow. It was resolved by council quite a few years ago, and the prices haven't
Yeah,
gone up.
well, this is a good example of why we should have a handyman. So that handyman can clean that window.
It's not just that window, Joyce. It's loads of things. It's not just our window.
It says K&K window.
Yes, it's not our office window. They do a number of things in the town for us. It's not just that one thing.
So can you explain which ones?
Not off the top of my head, but I
Can you
can
put it
let you know
through?
tomorrow. Yeah,
On
definitely.
the,
Yeah,
anyway,
no problem.
it's my day off tomorrow, so I won't be reading anything. I won't be in.
Councillor Brooks?
When we approved the photographic competition money, we were supposed to pay the town partnership, and they did originally tell us that we would be sponsoring it because we can't reward individuals with the preset. So why has the council paid the individual and not the town partnership?
Because that was on their invoice. The Oaken Town Partnership, that was on their invoice.
But it's not the proper way to do the accounts, because that now looks like to any auditor that we've given a member of the public £50 personally for a photographic competition. We were misled because we were told it would be sponsorship, not a prize money. And you know, I'm not going to pick anything else because I am sick of being told that I'm harassing by picking up on these things. Everything is not being done properly at this council.
Any other comments? Okay. So can I have a proposer then?
And one other question. Please.
No, you've had your
I've-
opinion. No, not.
There's a lot of
Please
things
sit down.
here. I want to know why the clerk said she's going to be awkward over expenses and things, but because of
please
standing orders.
withdraw
No,
that
because of
comment,
standing
please,
orders. Why is she paying her salary without approval of council? That's a serious question. If
Did
you
you
can't
want just
buy
to resign? Didn't you
anything
sign
else
that
because
yesterday,
you're not
didn't you?
allowed to do
Yeah. Would you like to
reoccurring
say it, Adam?
expenses, can you?
And so did Anne.
That's a question I've been asked by somebody else as well.
Yeah,
Well,
Councillor
actually, I
Lowe,
think,
would you like to respond to that, please?
well, I think the salaries have to be paid, and they get paid by backs, and before the payments are done, or when the payments are being done, they get countersigned by the councillors on the signatory list. So it has been done in accordance with what the town council's regulations.
Approved by council as
Right, can I,
everything has to
can
be.
I'm not going to allow you to drag this down the way you are, Councillor Brooks. Please keep quiet.
Yeah,
We were
Chairman.
told
You've had your 3
Sorry,
minutes
Chairman,
of
this is important.
No.
We were told that every
Can I have a
piece of
seconder, please?
expenditure has
Who
to be
seconded?
approved by
Details.
And all those in favour?
I didn't hear that.
Proposal to, I know it's difficult, isn't it? Proposal to accept the accounts. This would be
9I.
E1.
Yeah,
9E1
Yeah.
has been proposed by Peter, seconded by Adam. All those in favour?
This is E1, is it? Not
E,
just E.
no, it's E.
E1.
No, E.
E, well,
We haven't
We
got
haven't
to
even got on to
E2.
Appendix 9 with Wallgate. This council said
E.
that we
I'm
didn't
sorry,
want
Michael,
that
I'm sorry, let's just
contract.
get
We're on E at the moment.
We're on E. Yes,
Yes.
that's what I said.
Yes.
Yes,
What do
E.
you say all those in
Subsection
favour?
1.
Yes.
Yeah, E.
Section 1 of E. E, yes.
Are we going to be dealing with this?
Are we right
Those
there?
against?
Yeah.
Against?
I don't know,
Abstentions.
because it's the accounts package, isn't it?
Oh, looks like everybody's for it.
Is
Right,
that
okay,
unanimous?
thank you.
It was unanimous, was it?
Looks like it's unanimous. Yeah, people weren't raising their hands, so it must be.
Right.
No, I'm against.
Oh.
I always am.
Right, now on
E1.
E1.
E1 or E2?
E1, yeah. E1.
E1.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, I'm looking at it.
Right, E1, which is the income and expenditure budget headings. Okay, labelled E1. You got that?
Yes.
Any comments, observations? No? Have a proposal?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Adam. Proposer. Can I have a seconder? Sally Ann seconds it. All those in favour?
Sorry.
10, yeah.
Against? Abstentions. One against. That's it.
Right.
Okay, we're now on to
E2.
E2, which we'll need to take these. We'll need to take these one at a time. Yes, Councillor Brooks, please keep quiet.
I'm not speaking. Are you feeling well?
Right, E2. Bunting.
Dave, the first one then is bunting, erect and remove. There's a lot of noise coming out of your mouth if you're not speaking, Councillor Brooks. That's an observation. The first one then is bunting. Do you have any comments on that? Yes, David.
I'd like to move, Chairman, as it's a minute.
Sorry?
I'd like to move, as it's a minuted item, I'd like to move
We've already
Yeah.
agreement.
Well, I need to give people an opportunity to debate it first. No comments, right? So
Well, it's proposed by
So
David.
David's proposing it,
And I'll second.
you'll second it, those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Unanimous.
Okay. Next one is the Wallgate service contract, hand washing and drying units. You wish to make a comment?
Yes, this is nothing to do with our current clerk, but these contracts have been running since the toilets were built. And our previous clerk said to us, do we want it or not? Now, I can't remember the exact words if the council said no, but I do believe we were going to look into the need of it. And there was a time when he actually renewed contracts without our consent. And I'm pleased that Alison's bringing it tonight, but we have paid the costs of hand dryers practically over and over again, and they have dispensed of things. A lot of the times people say they're not working properly, so I don't think we should pay it, and we should be looking at possibly at replacements, because they are now over, I think they must be over 10 years old, because it was when Jan Filliman was mayor that the toilets were opened and they were installed. And I just think we're throwing money away Well,
And
the
we
interest,
please
sorry,
just
you
have
would
one
know.
person, please.
Yeah, they're in the public conveniences.
Right.
And most of the time there are issues with them. So I think this needs to be just provisionally not rejected but deferred, so that we can look into what the costs of new hand drives will be, because we're not actually getting them serviced as far as I know, or repaired for that money. It's like if you watch Watchdog, when they used to do the extended guarantees, they used to say put the money in the jam jar and see who's the better off at the end of the 5 years.
Okay, you've
And
had
we
your 3
paid this
minutes,
for a
thank you.
donkey
Anne, I
years.
think you have something you want to say. And I'll come back to you on.
I don't know much about public conveniences, but every time I've been in there, they have worked really well. And I like the idea that you don't have to move from one place to another, so you don't drip water all over the floor. I think they're brilliant units. As a teacher, we bought our own for their toilets, and they're vandalised and created, and it was a nightmare. And I've always found them very good in those toilets, and so I would suggest perhaps we could ask them to renew them if people think they're out of date. But I like the idea that it's all in one little cubicle.
Thank you. Joyce? Councillor Brooks, keep quiet. Joyce?
I just have to echo that, being an authority on toilets.
Thank you very much.
Sorry,
Adam?
I have
Oh,
no
sorry,
she's still
authority on toilets in the gentlemen's, but I have been in there regularly just to make sure that everything is working. If Councillor Brooks has had some complaints, can he please tell us the names so that we can explain how the hand dryers, washers work?
Thank you. Councillor Lowe?
I believe, I vaguely remember, and it did come to this council. We did talk about, when we were discussing contracts, about the units in the public toilets, and the Wallgate dryers are actually part of the sink wash hand basin as a whole composite. And I think then the council decided it would probably be best to continue to go ahead. So the fact that it's come back to council to defer it, I believe, would probably just delay us and bring us back to where we are, and would not achieve a great deal. And the comment about putting money to one side, yes, it sounds like a sensible idea, but if in the event that one of these dryers fails and there's an incident in the toilet, be it a fire or electrocution, then the council has not got a leg to stand on. So I believe servicing is the way forward. Thank you, Chairman.
I'll just add my piece on that. I also use these toilets. I've always found the hand washing dry units to work. I've always found them to be clean. They are, as Lorraine pointed out, they are a composite unit. It's not separate units. And if we do not maintain them, as Councillor Lowe has quite rightly pointed out, if we do not maintain them and something goes wrong, we would be liable. We would be at risk of being prosecuted and or sued. Any other comments? You've had your piece. Yeah, you have the floor.
I have to say I have first-hand knowledge of these because I wired them. I think what we ought to be doing is, if there are concerns that the gents aren't working, that when our cleaner goes in, we ask him to check that they are working and report every time, so we can
Good idea.
either get Wallgate out, have a look at them, or electrician out if it's electrical, just to sort that, easily remedied.
But the clerk has confirmed the cleaner does do that.
We remember the time
Okay.
the contracts review wasn't.
Can we have a proposer to accept this?
Proposed, Chairman.
Propose, second.
I'll second.
Sally Ann, second it. All those in favour?
They never let me second anything.
Sorry,
It's not
Charlie.
good, it's quite right.
You can second the next one if you want
I
to.
might not want to.
Those against?
Oh,
Those against? One against? No abstentions in that case. Right. Third one is the RCC tree assessments. It was resolved at the last meeting, but it didn't include the 2 allotments, so there was an additional cost of £218.26. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Can I just ask, was that the trees that overlapped the allotments onto those houses and that man's thing?
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Do you want a proposer?
Chairman.
Second
Who's my second?
Nick seconds it. All those in favour?
Unanimous.
That's unanimous. Thank you all very much. Agenda item 10 then, residents only parking. This is Appendix F. The next one on your pack.
This one was deferred, but I got clarification from James, the manager of parking. And basically it's just if a members support it really, and then they'll go back and do the necessary form and stuff.
Do we know exactly where though?
Schoolthorpe.
Oh, sorry, we're on school.
Hang on a minute,
Yeah.
just a minute. You finished?
Yep.
Okay.
May I raise
Yeah,
a question?
you can do.
Yes, reading the blurb, it says Tony Mathias, the last leader, to resolve problems with RCC employees. Can we confirm that that is the case? Because I thought that was the main problem. The employees were spreading around the town and we were putting sort of no-go areas in, which was a bit of a movable feast. So if that isn't the case, we're really looking at odd individuals, and it says here that one person in particular ignores the lines. Well, if he's ignoring them, what, is he not going to ignore any further sort of rules that are put in place? So it's a bit of a question, but a bit of a comment as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brooks.
I can't speak for all the Open South East Ward councillors, but I am slightly annoyed that the Rutland County Councillor has brought this via the clerk. None of us were consulted, as far as I know. I know I wasn't. I actually emailed the Rutland County Councillor named on here, and he hasn't responded to me. I slightly agree with the comments about the chapter parking, if it's a chapter parking on the lines, why Rutland County Council enforcement officers not ticketing it. And I'm personally looking at it not willing to support another residence scheme because the costs are going up on that astronomically. I think it's just another way of the council having revenue. I think they've gone up nearly 100% this year. Or probably more, because it used to be 25, but I think they've gone up to an average nearly £50 something. But they really need, and probably to be told by us, to get a grip of this parking, because all we're doing is constantly just moving it from one street to the next. If they did approve this, then it just moves next door, and then those residents get upset. So they keep telling us at Rutland County Council they're doing parking reviews and things, but I don't see it, and it's just been going on for years now.
Thank you. David?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Well, I mean, this gentleman, this is parked on across a line. It's a white line. The white line only actually designates the edge of the road. It's not parking. It's not a parking restriction. So really, the county council, if they want people to park down there, doesn't need residents parking, just wants double yellow lines.
Thank you for that observation. Yes, I agree with you entirely.
Yeah,
White line
it is
simply
white.
marks the edge of the carriageway. It has no other significance at all.
Very big mistake.
Does anybody else wish to comment on the debate? No? Okay. Do I have a proposer to accept, or do I have a proposer for the Oakham Town Council to recommend this parking zone?
I'm a bit confused. I'm really sorry. So they want residents only parking, but we've just said they should have double yellow lines.
No.
Sorry.
That was the observation made was David made an observation that if it is a white line, the only significance of a white line on the edge of a road is to mark the edge of a carriageway. It has no other significance at all. David then made a comment that if the county council wished to put a double yellow line down, then that would stop parking. That was a comment. What the point we're now considering is, do we as a council wish to support the residents in having a residents only parking zone on that road? So I'm asking, does anybody wish to propose that we do?
Can I speak against it, or am I too late?
Is it?
I don't think we should have, but there's too many areas now.
Well, in that case, you're not going to propose it then, are you?
No.
Okay. So there's no proposal. All right then, so that falls.
Okay.
Nobody proposed it, therefore it falls.
But we have to remember that when it comes to council. Otherwise it's silly.
Councillor Brooks, you still seem to have a bit of a problem this evening, don't you?
Well, it started when you slammed the door in
Please.
my face.
Councillor Brooks, please shut up.
You didn't put me in
Agenda
the-
item 11. This is, again,
Where are we up to?
we're now on agenda item 11.
Hacken law, is it?
Can I ask the chairman only to speak so that I can understand? We're getting conversations across there. Where are we up to now, please?
Yeah,
Thank
thank you. We're now on,
11.
I don't want you to speak. I've asked the chairman.
thank you. We are now, thank you, we are now on agenda item 11.
Yes,
Okay?
I'm just making a point.
Yeah,
that Everything should come through the chair.
Thank you very
No
much.
comments.
thank you. Alison has produced a paper. I will ask Alison to present the paper if you will, please.
It's just really what it says. The email James again sent me this email. Do we support the idea of enforcing a no parking at any time? Enforcing a no parking at any time in this area.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
Okay, David.
Exactly where?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I mean, it is a problem down there with lorries parking, I must admit, but the only trouble with putting yellow lines, you can put yellow lines around the whole of the town, every street of the town, but unless you've got a police officer walking or a traffic warden walking, it's a complete waste of paint. Because, let's be honest, you're not going to have a traffic warden up there. We very rarely see a police officer riding around enforcing any of this. The only time we see an enforcement officer is the county council guys that walk up and down here and ticket everybody for parking 2 minutes longer than they should have done when they went to the bank. I mean, I think it's a good idea, but I don't think it's enforceable.
Okay. Martin?
I'm not going to support this because as a person who's lived in Oldham for 12 years, people like Selma when they lived here, that road, before all the development was set up, has always been used for parking overnight lorries and things. We don't provide in the county any lorry places. If they say they can't park there, they're going to park in, I don't know, my road. You know, they will be, I know it's not right, but they were using it a lot before the development. And maybe we could suggest to Rutland County Council that they look into providing, like they do, a coach place when these drivers are coming off the bypass for their rest. Maybe they share that. But you can't just say they can't stop. They have to stop by law. And that's where they choose.
Anne? I'll
Yes.
come to you afterwards, not now.
Sorry. I have seen these lorries and I find them to be quite dangerous at night when people are coming out of the, what's it called, Buttercross and the houses and everything. And I look at those lorries are not the kind of lorries that people are sleeping in. Those lorries have just been left there by somebody who lives somewhere in the vicinity. And I think that lorry parks that are on the A1 and things like that are excellent, but those lorries are not the lived-in lorries, and so I think they're just parking there for their own convenience, and I don't agree with it.
You, Nick?
Yes, Chairman. My only comment is that I don't actually have any information to form an opinion other than a statement asking would we consider it as an enforcement action. There's no fact saying we've had resident complaints. It's quite open, so I would prefer that we move to request some further information to allow us to make an informed decision on the request.
Okay, so you are making a counter proposal that we seek further information from Rutland County Council and that it comes back to this council.
Yeah.
Is that your proposal?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
perfect.
Kevin, I just wanted to make a quick point.
Okay, just before I accept that, Adam.
I just wanted to, it was the part that David mentioned about police going down there, to make everybody aware, if you weren't aware, but Leicestershire Police do not enforce parking regulations in this county.
No, that's traffic regulations, though, isn't it?
If they see double yellow line, they won't issue tickets anymore. That's why we have civilian enforcement officers now. So it would be civilian enforcement officers that would enforce and issue tickets, unless people were breaching zigzags, white zigzags. That then becomes a police matter. Just for a bit of clarity.
Thank you for that clarification, Adam.
That's all it is.
Right, so we've now got then a counter proposal from David.
Seconded it.
Joyce seconds. You're okay with the wording?
Yeah.
Okay. All those. So this is the counter proposal. And all those in favour?
I thought it was Nick's proposal.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Go back for further information.
8, 9.
9.
I'll abstain.
No, we're missing one. I've got 9.
Can we just have that?
Yeah, I'm going to go again. I'm waiting for my turn to put my hand up.
Oh, so 9.
All those in favour, please.
9.
Against?
10.
Abstentions? One.
Can you minute my abstention, please?
You'd like that minuted?
Yeah. It's only because it came to council matter.
Okay. Thank you. We'll try and get that to the next meeting.
Juggling.
Right. Appendix H. Yeah. The next one, agenda item 12, additional disabled parking space in Oakham. This is Appendix H. Again, Alison has produced this paper, so I will ask her if she will read on this first.
Again, it's the correspondence received from the Rutland Access Group, and the decisions are would members support the proposal, and if it was successful, would they make a financial contribution?
Okay. Nick?
This I brought forward based on some feedback to the task and finish group as a consideration for the future plans, which are going to be resolved within 6 months. That this has come up as an issue. So for me, I'm thinking that it's part of a bigger picture. Currently, we're considering the town and its facilities, so we probably need to bear in mind what we do now. Maybe steamroller in less than 8 months from now.
We can comment.
Yeah.
So what's your suggestion?
I'm just letting everybody have that thought.
It's likely to be subsumed by the bigger
It's
plan.
part of our requirement to consider parking.
Okay. Peter?
Yes, I take on board what's been said, but we've got the request at the moment. I mean, I totally support anything to help the disabled, but there is a degree of flexibility with a blue badge anyhow. So, you know, you can park in most places as long as you're not causing a sort of a bottleneck. So, you know, I'm just slightly querying the need, particularly with Nick's comment before. If it's definitely needed, fine, I would support it, but I just wonder. So.
Martin?
I'm not going to support it, not because I'm against disabled parking or anything like that, make that clear. But similar requests came through a parking review, I think it's about a year ago, and the suggestion from Rutland County Council then, which I don't think the council supported, I know I didn't, was that the boxes appeared with, I think, almost like blue tarmac and a wheelchair stuck in the middle of it. And my opinion then was that basically having these disabled spaces actually says it's pointing the finger, and my view is that a disabled person should be treated equally, and not really. I hate those boxes. I've got one on my road where it says disabled. A man gets out of the car and everyone sees disabled. Yet they can park basically anywhere that's safe with a blue badge, and I would like to leave it, as Councillor Woodley said, for this is part of the plan for Oakham. There was some disabled bays, I believe, in the couple of proposals that we're doing, and I don't think that Rutland County Council are going to actually take them away in any future plans that they want to put to the public. So I think we should just maybe write to them and say
Okay,
that
just
we
to,
believe that's the body that's going to be dealing with
to
it.
sum up then what we
No,
from
I
what we've.
haven't had my say. Sorry.
Go on then.
Sorry.
No, I didn't see your hand up,
Sorry. I was waiting for somebody else and I was going to do a rubber shriek. That's why I want to know exactly where it's going to be. Now, if it's going to be the last bay on the left-hand side going up here by the traffic lights, that is definitely a no-no. Because people who are, if you look, disabled people get out, and if they can drive, they get out, so the car door is open for a long time, right by a traffic light. Have you seen what happens when they come down Westgate and can't get round the corner, particularly the hopper service bus can't get round? This area is absolutely a no-no. Now, the fact that the Access Group want to go and have lunch at Wetherspoons, I agree with. Let them go to Wetherspoons. But if you go into Westgate, right, you all know where Westgate is, there is a parking space for the disabled. What I'm suggesting is move that parking space for the disabled to the other end of the parking thing by
The fish and chip shop.
it was Codswallop, I don't know what it is now. That would save anybody, disabled or able-bodied, from opening the door to get out because you buy the hairdressers.
Okay, just.
You see?
All right, thank you.
It needs more thought. You cannot, I'm sorry, you
Okay,
cannot
thank you.
put a parking for disabled right in front of a traffic.
All right, just
light.
to sum up then, we've got four things of this. First of all, Peter says blue badge holders
Yeah.
have parking rights that others don't have. One. Secondly, Joyce who feels the position is potentially dangerous. Thirdly, we've got the point that if we have any additional bays there which are only for disabled parking, it means they can't be used by anybody else in any case. I think they are the issues that we've covered. Yeah, and a very important one, the last one that Nick raised, that it could all be subsumed by the redevelopment plans. And I take on board what Peter says. This is presented to us now, and what happens in the future. But I do feel it would be right to be mindful that there are likely to be significant changes.
Can I just add in though, that don't be so negative, be positive and bring that disabled parking space to the other end of the by Wilco's. Don't let us...
But we're looking on this particular application, then do we...
But don't let's be so negative.
We have to be on what's written.
Can we just onto the paper we've got? Does anybody wish to propose that the council supports this application? Does anybody wish to make a counter proposal? Nick?
I would propose that we reach out to them in terms of task and finish route and highlight that this is being assessed as part of our delivery within the next 6 months, which is realistically the amount of motion time we need to do a proper study, address the impact. And I think that would be the right response from the council.
So your proposal is that we reject the proposal, but we bring it to the attention of the town centre. Start task and finish work.
Get that as a minute that I have to report on within
Okay.
except time.
So that's your proposal. Do I have a seconder for that?
Could we add a thing to it
I
that
think
we
you-
actually respond?
Are you
to
making a counter proposal?
It's just an addition that.
Or you need to make a counter proposal?
Yeah, the council proposal is the same as Mr Woodley's, but we also communicate with the Rutland Access Group. Well, it's important we say that.
Yeah.
Not because,
I thought I said it in my
You got
no,
that?
not when you did the proposal.
Could you read that? So
That
this is now Councillor
reject
Brooks's
the-
proposal. Can you read it all
that
out, please?
reject the proposal, but bring it to the attention of the Town Centre Task and Finish Working Group and communicate to the Rutland Access Group.
that
Is that your proposal, Martin?
Yeah, maybe, if the clerk communicates to the Rutland Access Group, it isn't just put.
Well, we have to
the
make a
reason
proposal.
is
We
given
can't
why-
turn it into a
The
book.
reason is given why we've rejected it, it just doesn't go back to them
Is
saying we've
the
rejected it.
proposal that the clerk read, is that your proposal?
Yes.
It's yes or no?
Yes.
Quite
Yes,
simple.
with a soft response to the Rutland Access Group. We don't want something
Well,
just
do you wish
saying
to
Oakham
make
Town
another-
Council rejected it.
Do you wish to make...
I'm sure the clerk knows how to write a letter to.
Yes.
No, I need a clear proposal
Yes,
that everybody understands, that can be
It
seconded on
accepts my
and
amendment.
voted on, okay? Can you read out the proposal, please?
Yeah. That Oakham Town Council rejects the proposal, but will bring it to the attention of the Town Centre Task and Finish Working Group
and that we communicate
and
to
communicate.
Rutland Access
Well,
in an
communicate
appropriate
through.
fashion which we know.
So we use the word communicated whilst we keep the Rutland Access Group informed of our reasons and decisions.
Yes. Thank you, Adam.
Right, start it all over again then, Alison.
That's why he's asking.
That we reject the proposal, but bring to the attention of the Town Centre Task and Finish Group and communicate with the Rutland Access Group and of our reasons.
Yeah, we put communicated.
Okay, with
It's-
the-
keep them, we just keep them informed.
Informed.
Yeah.
You're all quite clear on that. Do I have a seconder for that, please? Okay. All those in favour?
Yeah, I'm still abstaining.
You're abstaining.
Yeah, a minute that as well, please.
Is that, you okay with that?
You don't over there.
One
say again?
abstention. Are you for, Michael?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
my brains are dribbling out. now.
Right,
I've got an easy one now.
agenda item 13.
Pardon?
I'm not going to read the paper out.
Well, everybody's read it, haven't they?
You've all read the paper. Do we have any
Questions?
comments or questions concerning this?
Well,
Hmm.
I tried to go through it, but as far as I can see, unless I've missed something major, all it is a fire risk assessment.
Sorry?
All I can see is it's the fire risk assessment. Or have I missed something?
It does say open air events.
What?
and,
But it only says for fire, as far as I can see. I
Sorry,
didn't read every word.
what are you referring to? Are you referring to the
This big document.
the document that was given with, which it says on the paper, was an example of a type of document, not our document, the type of document that would be produced, not the document. It's an example of what could be produced, not what will be produced.
So we haven't actually gone into any hazard health and critical control points or anything like that yet then?
Well, we haven't. Council hasn't agreed to do it yet.
Oh, I thought we had them, sorry.
No, that's why we brought the paper to council. That's Martin, yes.
Yes, if we approve this, will this now apply to the car boot sale, which is now turned into a fund according to their advertising, which we didn't approve? The town partnership.
Well,
I'm very concerned because we have no response of either whether they're insured or anything.
that's coming back to the April meeting.
Who's going to inspect?
That's
this?
coming back to the April
thank you.
meeting.
But have they got insurance?
Well, can we please stick to the agenda item?
Well, it's all to
Okay.
do with.
Can we
risk
stick to the
assessment
agenda
and
items?
events
Does
enforcement.
anybody else wish to make any comments? Nick?
I would just like people to understand that if we don't treat this with the focus really needs, we left ourselves quite open to some serious liabilities in the past, and this paper is had some considerable thought, not only in the effects of what we're proposing, but also the implementation, so how we're supporting the process to improve things like some training so we can all understand what risk assessments mean and that they're not just arduous things. But we are exposed at present as an organisation in terms of our liabilities. Each of us, if you stand up and run an event, if you don't do these things, we put ourselves squarely in the target for legal action, and that isn't acceptable for a council, realistically, and I think we need to treat that. You may have some comments, I think, on the approach, but we have spent a lot of time and a lot of effort trying to make this an easy passage for the organisation, us, to start to implement. So I just think it would be good that we move it forward if possible.
Thank you, Dick. Martin, I'll let you come back in
Yeah,
on this.
well, maybe I'm jumping in a bit too quick, but I support this because this is one of the things I've been accused of harassing the council about for many years, is the attitude that we're insured, and it's nonsense. You know, we haven't done things properly, and I'm really pleased at the work that this group has put into preparing this, and we look as if we're moving forward in the right direction. And if you want a proposal, which obviously won't be second now, I support all those proposals on the paper.
And I'll let you come. I'll let Anne come back in here, and I'll come back to you.
Having done health and safety, risk assessment and all the rest of the stuff, and I'm just reading the last paragraph, and I absolutely agree with it, but, and I do think this interactive training session, it won't be a session, because I went on several courses of weeks at a time. There is no way this is not going to cost a lot of money, and I agree that perhaps we all need to do it because we don't know who's going to be on which committee and who can do what at what time. It is going to be an enormous financial outlay, and so consequently, yes, I agree with it, but are these people that have looked into it aware of the cost of these things?
Can I just come back to the cost of what?
Training.
The training, this here, this we just read. And it won't be one session, it will be several sessions. Yeah, you can't do it in one session.
Sorry, which paragraph is it?
To reduce and manage risks and help, etc.,
Yeah.
etc. Following this event safety guide is developed together with the risk, I can't lost it now. This is proposed that councillors Haley and Woodley arrange an interactive training session for all members.
Yeah.
They're going to present it.
Where's the cost? So what cost then?
To do the qualification, you can't just say, oh, I've been on a course. You have to have some qualification.
Do you? I'm afraid you're wrong.
Well, really? Oh, well, that's a very new one to me. Are we talking about a specific event or just in general? Because I can assure you that somebody has to be qualified.
Nick, perhaps you ought to come back in on that.
Yeah, well, that's not quite true. There has to be someone nominated who accepts the responsibility for events.
And if they're not qualified, it's a waste of time.
And please.
Sorry, I apologise.
This is a debate for a second. You're allowed to understand. We are not proposing to put anyone through a formal qualification process, because actually to comply with the law you don't need to do that. What you need to do is have someone who's nominated the event organiser, who has completed the risk assessments to the best of their abilities, which is what is proposed. Me and Michael will take you through. I ran the fireworks event for the Lions, 3,500 people, significant health and safety risks. Lots of people here have lots of experience of running events. The idea here is about the process we want to follow, how we would like as a group to approach risk assessments, where we can reuse knowledge we all have. So it's not about getting a formal qualification, it's about being able to address the need to show that we have thought about the risks associated with every event. We've considered our responses in the likelihood of an event, and that's documented to prove that we have done our due diligence. And that's all that's required to comply with the law.
David,
It's just I was a bit concerned as to whether we're or aiming to become accredited safety officers or something like that. Because, you know, it's a question of competence. How competent are we to make these risk assessments, even after doing the course? Because I remember when I was working, we used to have a lot of these first aid things, and we were accredited first aid training.
Yes.
Quite honest with you, you know, after about 2 months, you'd forgotten everything that they taught you, so we weren't really that competent, and I'm just worried that it might be something similar.
As Nick has said, and I will concur what he said, because I was the health and safety officer at my last college. You do not need any formal qualifications to carry out a risk assessment. So we're not talking of making anybody in the council accredited, but the council as a whole, as a body, we do have legal responsibilities. Okay? And we are legally required to carry out risk assessments. We're not legally required to employ a qualified, accredited person to do that. If you look at risk assessments, people get worried about risk assessments. All of us do a risk assessment from the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep. What we don't do is perhaps realise we're doing a risk assessment or record it. For instance, whenever you cross the road, most of us do a risk assessment. We look, see any traffic's coming before we walk out. That's a risk assessment. When you get out of bed, you look on the floor to make sure you're not putting your foot in your slop bowl or something. We do risk assessments all the time. We don't formalise it. This is what we're talking about doing. Okay, but at the moment, we're not doing any risk assessments, and by not doing so, we do place ourselves at serious risk.
We do.
Okay, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I 100% believe, and this is not a joke. The liability is significant, and all we have attempted to do is make our approach to it effective for all of us. And you know, if you've got great background in it, you can get on board with us, because the points that we're trying to make are that we have documented as much as is possible, and you're not going to get it all, but we will demonstrate we have considered the risks. That's the point.
And how you am I allowed to speak or no?
No, you've already spoken.
Yeah.
I want to correct one point. Actually, the chairman, you did say we haven't done risk assessments. We have actually utilised the RCC to do checks on fares and things like that. This is probably a lower level than that, because we're not employing qualified people. But on saying that, I think your past employments dictate that you have the capability to do this. And I'd say that I myself, within my own job, I do health and safety risk assessments, and I have training certificates to support it. I've also done disaster planning and training. So, and I totally support what the chairman said, that all of us do risk assessments. All this is formalising it, documenting it, so we can show that we've attempted to mitigate any risk turning into a potential incident, and that's what we're doing, mitigating that risk. So I would support it, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
It's only just a little thought. I have also done risk assessments and also managed emergency centres, etc., etc. One of the things that concerns me is if an officer is going to do an assessment, are you going to have a system where somebody else countersigns as well? Because when we start talking about legal obligations, we are only, town councillors. I don't want to have a level where the assessment that I've done ends up being incorrect for whatever reason, and something happens, and I am legally responsible on part of the Rutland Town Council. And I think that I do agree that it is something that should be looked at, but I also feel that it shouldn't be down to one person to do that assessment without it being countersigned or going up, so that there is a broader aspect to this.
Well,
but I do agree.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. We haven't got that far as yet. So what we're looking at, taking things in incremental steps. What we're looking at the moment is what we're proposing is that Nick and myself deliver a training event for all councillors, and it'll be interactive, so it'll involve everybody. that we then, and I'm sure Nick would agree with me, anyone else wants to come on board and share the load, they'll be more than welcome, to develop an events guide which is bespoke to the council.
Yes.
The guide that was produced was just an example of the sort of thing which is out there. And the third one, that once it's adopted, that an agenda paper includes a completed risk assessment and cost-benefit analysis. That's a little bit further down the road. The process of doing that we would need to revisit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
That's fine.
taking it incrementally, is that
Yes, that's fine.
okay?
Yeah.
I'll let you come in once more, Martin.
Yeah, I was going to just quickly say thank you again, because obviously we got to look at other things. We, as councillors, Mrs. Dahlia just pointed out, and she didn't want the legal responsibility, there was a council recently, a couple of years ago, where they had an event and a child was killed by a bouncy castle, and the risk there was that all the councillors, even if they weren't involved, as a body, we would be liable. Unfortunately for the councillors there, the police decided not to prosecute. What we have to remember is we're a body, and everything that goes on in this council, whether it's decided by one person or a group, is everybody's responsibility. So I'm very pleased that we are now starting to do things. Now, none of us, I've just started a job, and I've sat through 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, of an induction to start the job. Health and safety, everything. There's no qualification at the end of it, but it's a legal requirement. We don't get that here. And that's going back to the thing where we're told, not by Alison, it was the previous part, don't worry Martin, we're insured. Now they will ask for these documents. If there was ever an incident at one of our events, they would ask for it. So my proposal is that we accept...
Before you propose, can I just ask?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I thought that everybody had finished.
No,
Thank you, Martin.
Sorry,
Well, I think
when you're ready, I'd like to make a proposal, Chair.
George, do you want to come in?
just to say, be sure and have something in about a first aider, first responder. I know it's been said, but when we did a fete in the Cuts Close, I was the first aider tent, and I had to deal with a young child who had ripped off a fingernail on one of the swings. So it is vitally important that we do have something in there. I know you've got it in there, health and safety, but something to say either you're going to employ St John's or Red Cross or somebody, please, because I wouldn't like, people to be attending to what I had to do on that particular day. It was, I don't know what it was, Adam. You were there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, very quickly, totally support this.
Yeah.
We seem to have a wealth of talent here. I introduced this to the County Council when I chaired the working party. Every report at the County Council has a risk assessment.
Yes.
There are 4 headings. They're slightly different to the 4 headings we put here, but they're all about consequences.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, and it's a defence mechanism, and it's important because if something happens, the authorities come to us, whoever it is, and they say, where's the risk assessment? What have you done?
Yeah.
So it is important. So eventually I'd like this to extend to everything. Every report, it's a bit of a chore. We had trouble at the County Council getting the office to do it. Or when they did it, they were sort of just putting yes and no and whatnot. We said it's not enough. Scrutiny really took them to task, and it's done properly.
Thank you. Okay.
Are we ready for a proposal, Chair? Can we do it en bloc?
Are we all happy to do this on block? Do
Yes.
I have a proposal?
I propose then that we accept the proposals 1, 2 and 3.
Have a seconder for that? Thank you very much. Thank you. All those in favour? Yeah? Okay. Thank you very much. Right, agenda item 14, revision to financial regulations. Okay, any comments on this paper? You've all probably read the paper. Thank you for reminding me of that. You're quite right, yes, we need to vote on the 6-month rule, which we can do in standing orders.
Yeah.
Okay. I've just been reminded quite correctly, I've forgotten it, I apologise. I need a proposer to rescind standing orders for the 6-month rule so we can debate this.
Proposed.
Just have a seconder for that, please.
Chairman.
All those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Against?
1, 2.
Abstentions? Okay, so that's carried.
Yep.
Okay, so we can now move on to agenda item 14. Councillor Brooks, do you wish to make a comment?
Just one quick comment. I'm not going to comment on the agenda item because another councillor said they will do it and then nobody will be getting upset. I would like just
Are you
one
going to comment
slight,
on it or not comment on it?
not on the, I'm commenting about one part of the report, not the substance of the report. I personally object to the third paragraph. When I brought this to council, it appears I made a mistake, and I really strongly object to the report's author's wording that misleading information was given to this council, because that was not the intention of anybody who put that paper together and supported it, and a number of the councillors did put their name to that paper. So, and I did ask in an email for that comment to be retracted,
okay.
because there was no intention of
Thank
it
you,
being
Peter.
misleading.
Yes, just
Because there was a time
as
when
a
it was
co-author,
You've had your time.
as a co-author of this, I'd just like to comment on that. Councillor Brooks, there was no intention to say it was deliberate, but it's a matter of fact, that is what the report said. So all we're doing is stating what happened at the time.
But then I won't.
Councillor Brooks, you've had your say. No, I'm not letting you speak again. Nick?
Yeah, so I'm following on that point. I don't see that the amount how you interpret the statement actually translates to any bearing on the proposal that was put forward in the paper and accepted by council. Because the £500, 5,000, 50,000 was an irrelevance in terms of the decision to approve expenses moving forward. So I'm not. What I'm slightly concerned about this paper is it does suggest that we are abandoning everything that was voted on, and I don't think it really takes into consideration what the points that the previous paper was trying to do. This seems to just ignore the fact that the council wanted to be aware of the expenses and have input, and the consideration was that any number in the thousands was probably too high, and I don't think there's enough flexibility here to agree an amount that would be workable for council members in terms of the money.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I think the reason this came back is because the wording within the financial regulations appeared to prevent the clerk from even paying a £44 window cleaning bill, for instance, and that was what reason it's come back. And as for regards having view of what our expenditure are, every month we've always had a list of expenditure, and councillors have always had the opportunity, which they don't always take prior to a meeting, they wait till the meeting and then try and they wait till the meeting before they raise a point where they query an expenditure point. So we always get a list. We've seen the list tonight. You know, £30 to Greg, for instance, for doing some work. £44 to the window cleaners, for instance. So we do get a list of where all expenditure is going. And if councillors choose not to read these documents before they get here, or choose not to email the clerk and say what was that particular item for, because that's what has been instructed in the past. But even tonight, where people have asked questions and when the clerk or the officers haven't got the information immediately to hand, they will email that out. In all the years, I've been 9 years on this council, I think now, there's never been any inappropriate spending that I've been aware of, and everything has been pretty transparent. The fact that we can see it all on the report, so it was mainly to do with bringing back this thing about the clerk being able to do the most basic of tasks, and even the fact of buying water of all things. So that's my observations anyway, Chairman.
Thank you. David?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Well, I'm going to have to support this to a degree, because at the last meeting I did say, you remember, whoever voted this on, that we've got to have all this nonsense on, that I can't buy a ream of paper. We've read it, and I wasn't at the December meeting. The only thing I do take issue with is that we're going to authorise 2 members of a working group, not a committee, just a working group, to authorise that expenditure.
I don't think you can do that.
If that's necessary, and I don't know if that is the correct. If it had been a committee, I would have gone along with it. But it's a working group. That anybody, and I'm not happy with that little piece. So.
Can you tell me which line you're actually
the very last line of the proposal, which says the clerk is required to consult at least 2 members of the finance working group. Such expenditure is to be notified to the council as soon as possible.
It should be 2 members of the council.
It does say, but the word is consult with. It's not. There's no delegated powers involved.
With all due respect, Chairman, the way I read this is that if the clerk, the expenditure is between 2,000 and 5,000, the clerk is required to consult. In other words, you've used the word consult, but actually what you're really meaning is the clerk has to get authority from 2 members of the working group.
No, it doesn't say
and that's how it reads, and that's how I interpret it, and I'm sure other members interpret it the same way. And if that stays in, I shall vote against this, I'm afraid, because to me it's not right. It's only a working group. I'm sorry about that.
Yes, I think it's a point well made, and I wouldn't be against an amendment on those lines. But while I'm standing up, I agree with what Adam said. We've appointed a responsible finance officer, an RFO, but what we did in December, and I wasn't here either, was we took virtually all the powers away. It's like appointing a managing director and then saying we're going to make every decision at every meeting. So we're trying to just go back either fully to what we were before, or if you want to amend it or adjust it slightly if you don't like the figures. But I just think where we were was getting a bit of a nonsense, because we were getting trivial amounts, big lists, and what's happened tonight, when we look at all these, we're having an agenda debate on it as well. We're not just approving the amounts, we're getting into fine detail on something that is not listed. It's just we're getting a debate because it's a bit of expenditure.
David, do you wish to make an amendment?
If I may, Chairman, just purely to the last 2 lines, my amendment is the clerk is required to seek approval from at least 2 members of the council. Yes. Such expenditure is to be notified to the council as soon as possible.
I just to make sure the clerk's got that. Can you read that?
Yeah,
back?
amendment to the last 2 lines, just the clerk to seek approval from at least...
I'm sorry, hang on, just...
Seek approval from at least 2 members of the council, and such expenditure to be notified to council as soon as possible.
Is that what you're saying? Yes. No, you've already come back once, Martin. Joyce, I don't think you've come in yet.
It's more or less reverting to what it was before, I'm sorry to say. Don't know why it was brought in the first place. But 2 members of the council, it needs to be, and it was the relevant members of the council that were consulted. And it's like, if there's a problem with a tree, then the tree warden is the appropriate person, one of the appropriate persons to be asked what they think. So if I go along with David with what he said, 2 members, relevant members of the council that have got the experience. Do you see what I mean? Do you understand that?
I don't think you need to change that.
Appropriate members.
Okay, so
Appropriate members, yes, thank you.
do you wish the word
Good put, appropriate.
I'm happy to have that inserted, Chairman, into my...
The word appropriate.
put the word appropriate in?
Yes.
Okay.
At least 2 appropriate members.
So can I, do I have a proposal?
Seconder.
Anne's proposed it, have a seconder?
Can we read out the proposal now as it stands, please?
Amendment to the last
Oh,
2
okay.
lines. The
So
Class
it's,
C-
sorry, it's as it stands, except the last 2 lines are changed to,
The
just read it out
clerk-
again, please.
Clerk to seek approval from at least 2 appropriate members of the council, full stop. Such expenditure to be notified to the council as soon as possible.
Yes, thank you.
I proposed it.
So, right, Anne's proposed it,
So we might as well go.
David
for it,
seconded it.
because we don't get
Yeah.
to approve anything anymore on this.
Councillor Brooks, kindly keep quiet. All those in favour?
Yes,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Against? Abstentions?
Right, no.
Quite, you okay
Yeah.
on the wording for that, then,
Yeah.
mate, yeah? You get that?
Yeah.
You get that done tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll put it down what to do.
Why did
oh, Martin! Now, you did that.
I know, I'm not. Well,
Oh,
why
dear.
does the Local Government Act say that we have to approve?
Please sit down, Councillor
The only
Brooks.
reason this was brought to council is because the clerk
Right,
didn't
we're
give us
now
the
on
post for the bandstand and spent 5.
We're now on to agenda item
Spent £5,000.
15.
It was 2 things.
Just nice, something.
Number 15.
15, yeah.
15, amendments to standing
There's a
orders.
report at the back.
Yes, I know, I'm just making sure I'm on the right page now.
I'll propose, Chairman.
I'd like to make a comment first.
Are you in the meeting then? Or?
Yes,
Are you actually in the meeting?
I am.
David?
Thank you, Chairman. I don't think this is enforceable. Because to be perfectly honest, unless somebody is making a comment on the council Facebook page, the council website, and anything else that we have, or email, then if you say something on, for instance, if I say something on my Facebook page about somebody, whether it's in this council chamber or not, that's up to me and that's up to them to take legal action.
Yeah.
I understand why this has come.
Well, I was going to say, don't they?
Please, it's got the
Because
floor.
this has come out, in my opinion, because there already is a private prosecution or private
Oh, I see.
thing going on, and this is probably just the council trying to cover its back again, which I understand because we always do. But we don't always look at the both sides of the story, and I think there are issues that have been raised in emails that need reporting. And I do think also we've got a paper, this paper. We haven't had the return paper of the reconciliation that was deferred for 3 months, which should have come back this month. There was also a paper that should have come back this month for the clerk's review, as I understand it.
Can we please, I'm going to stop you, no,
What I'm trying to get at,
I'm-
Jen, is we're very quick to bring...
I'm going to stop you, thank you. First of all,
This is not
First-
fair. Councillors allowed to speak. You
First-
don't want
shut
to
up.
hear that I am being
First of
accused
all-
of lies.
first of all,
Lies by that
first of
woman
all, this
before.
this
I
paper,
don't care. Does she
This-
not realise what anxiety and stress she's
This
causing me by
paper
telling the police
is
that
not-
I stalked her?
But you're a dim.
this paper,
I think the...
Please, I hope she never comes.
Oh,
When I get the
the meeting is